Is it still possible to live in Bali for $1,000 a month? And if so, what kind of lifestyle are we looking at? Well, in this video, I'm gonna cover that and break it down category by category so you know exactly what you are going to spend here when you visit Bali. One of the biggest expenses in Bali is accommodation, but I wanted to show you a few options so that you can understand that when you get here, what your budget will have to be. There are three main categories for accommodation in Bali. You have a basic guest house, you have studio apartments, and you have villas. Now, all of these categories are slightly different in prices, and it also depends on what you're willing to spend on a month or weekly when you arrive in Bali. Starting off with guest houses. Guest houses are the most affordable accommodation type in Bali, and typically they're guest house like what you see here. You have a shared living space over here where there's a kitchen, you have tables, you have common areas to sit, and then you have your own private room. And in your private room, you usually have your own bathroom, and you also sometimes have your own kitchen. You obviously do have your own bed and some storage, but overall it's like you have a separate bedroom and a shared co-living space. The option 2 is a studio apartment. Now, those ones are fairly new to Bali and there's not a lot of them in the market right now. But basically, a studio apartment is something where it's a little bit more private. You might have your own private pool. You might have your own private kitchen, a little bit more of a nicer space. Typically, there isn't a common area, but there is your own private contained unit. And these ones are the second most expensive. And category 3 are villas. Now, villas are typically the most expensive category for living in Bali because you get everything private. You get your own private pool, private garden, and even your own maybe studio in the villa. Depends on what you choose in the area, can really depend on the prices. But here are the three prices for these three categories. So for a guest house like this, you can expect to pay anywhere between $300 and $500 per month. Sometimes more. It depends on the area. If you are living in Seminyak or Canggu or Uluwatu, those are the three most expensive areas. But if you are living in Ubud or other areas, they can be a little bit less expensive. Private villas typically run you about $1,000+ per month because, again, you get your own private pool and entire private villa. It also depends on your area because if you stay in Uluwatu, that is typically the most expensive place to rent a private villa. But if you stay in Ubud or Seminyak, it's a little bit more affordable. And if you head over to Ubud, that might be the most affordable area for private villas in Bali. Now, the other option was the studio apartments. And in those cases, you can typically get a studio apartment for about $600 to $800 per month. And again, depends on the area, but that is the typical range for studio apartments. There isn't as many in Bali as other places like Thailand, but you do find a few of them that are coming up. Now let's go to the pros and cons of these. Obviously, if you're living in a guest house, you can meet other people, you have a co-living environment, it's quite a nice place and it's the most affordable. So if you were coming first to Bali, guest houses are probably the best option for you. But if you're coming with family or you already have been to Bali a few times, you might want something more private. You might want your own private villa or studio apartment. And in those cases, you are paying a little bit more, but again, you will get more privacy. Now let's head over to the second category, which is transportation. Now, if you're coming to Bali, there are a few main methods of transportation. The number one method is scooter. Now, you don't have to necessarily rent a scooter, but you have to be prepared to ride on a scooter. Let me explain. So if you want to rent a scooter, you can drive it and you can go around all the best places in Bali. It's the best way to see and tour Bali. You don't have to rely on anyone. You can go by yourself. And typically, scooter rentals, you can rent per day, per week, or per month. Typically, for a scooter rental per month for a nice scooter can run you anywhere between $100 and $200. Depends on the scooter that you choose. Now, if you do not want to drive a scooter, but you are still comfortable with riding on a scooter, you have two options. The first option is Gojek. Gojek is an app where you can download and you can request people to pick you up anywhere you want with a scooter. And they're very affordable, between a few dollars per ride. You also have Grab, which is the other app that is used all around Southeast Asia, and you can use this app again to request pickups on scooters and even cars. There are a few more apps that are also becoming popular, but those are the two main ones that you will find almost anywhere, at the airport, at most beaches, and around Bali in general. Now let's head to the next category, which is food. Bali has something for every budget for food, and that's what I love about Bali so much, is that you can come here and you can choose if you want to live on a budget or if you want to go out and dine in at fancy restaurants. There's a lot for everyone, from street food to nice quality restaurants to really fancy resorts and experiences. Now the street food is the most affordable, starting at only a few dollars for some street food. You can also eat at local warungs, which are typically a level above street food. They're a small little local restaurant where you can get local Indonesian food, nasi goreng, which is fried rice, and even curries, and those will typically run you between $2 and $5 per meal. Then you have Western restaurants. Now, Western restaurants are anything such as burgers or something that you wouldn't typically find that is local to Bali. Obviously, nice brunches and those restaurant experiences. Those ones are a little bit more expensive, but still relatively affordable. Typically, you will pay around $10 to $15 per person per meal at a Western restaurant. And the great thing about restaurants here is that you are not required to tip. So even if you go out and the total is $30, you don't actually have to tip on that. Now, the other option is if you do have a place like this where you have, for example, a kitchen, or if you have your own private kitchen in your villa or in your studio apartment, then you can also cook at home. Now, the weird thing about cooking in Bali is that it can be about the same price or even more than going out to local restaurants because of the cost of food. Now, for local food such as veggies, it's very affordable. But when you try to get the more expensive things imported from other countries such as Australia, Europe, US, Canada, you're going to be paying a little bit more expensive for those food items. It's still more affordable than food cost of groceries in Western countries, but it still is quite expensive for Bali when you compare the general cost of living. So if you want to spend the least amount of money, eating out at restaurants every day might be the best option for you. Now let's head over to activities and gyms. There are a lot of gyms in Bali, especially in the Canggu and Seminyak area, but even down in Uluwatu and Ubud, you will find all different kinds of gyms for different price ranges. You can get a daily pass for about $10, or you can get a membership for about $40 to $80 a month, or sometimes more if you go to a really fancy gym. Now, some of the best gyms that I've been to and that I've heard of are, first of all, there's one in Seminyak called the Soham Wellness. I think this is one of the nicest gyms because you have a pool and you have a gym and you even have yoga classes there you can take. Plus, there is a cafeteria where you can get some food. But there is also a really nice gym in Canggu called the Wrong Gym. A lot of people go to this gym. It is probably one of the most expensive gyms in Bali, but apparently it's worth it. And if you are really wanted to get in shape and meet other people, I think this is a great place to check out. There's also other options here for activities, such as Muay Thai classes and even private fitness programs. And if you're talking about wellness, you have lots of options for wellness. You can get massages starting at about $5 all the way up to $30 per person. But then you can also get other experiences such as yoga classes and many more. The great thing is about Bali, you can really do anything you want here with the actual fitness classes, because there's a lot here. There's classes only for women, there's classes only for men, and you will also find all different kinds of dance programs, wellness programs here, things you wouldn't typically find in other places in Southeast Asia. The next category is co-working and Wi-Fi. This is probably one of the most important things about Bali is the co-working and Wi-Fi speeds, especially if you are going to be working remotely. Now, the great thing about Bali, especially in Canggu and Seminyak, is you have a lot of options for not only cafes, but also for co-living and co-working spaces. There are certain places where you can rent a room, and they also have a co-working space built into that. You get to meet new people, and it's quite affordable. Some places to mention are BeWork and Tropical Nomad. They're probably some of the most popular co-working spaces to check out in Canggu. You also have cafes that are pretty popular called Zin and Tribal. And again, these are really nice cafes and also places where you can live and also meet other people. So there's a lot of options here in Bali to check out. Now, guest houses typically include Wi-Fi, but it doesn't mean that the Wi-Fi is going to be fast. For example, this guest house here, the Wi-Fi is okay, but it's not fast. It's about 70 to 80 megabytes per second, but it's decent enough if you are not doing heavy uploads. So sometimes if you really need fast Wi-Fi, you can head over to Starbucks Diwata, which is located on Sunset Road, and you have fast Wi-Fi there. Or you can head to a co-working space, purchase a day pass, and you can get access to really fast Wi-Fi. So if you do need fast Wi-Fi on certain days and you don't have it at your guest house, well, you're not out of luck because there's lots of places to find that connection if you need it, especially in Canggu and Seminyak areas. You can also purchase a monthly or weekly nomad pass at many of these co-working spaces. So you can go for a few times a week and work there, and you only pay a flat rate per week or per month. Or you can get a day pass if you just wanted to try it out, and typically day passes start at about $5 to $10 per person. The monthly passes for nomad co-working spaces typically are $30 to $100 a month. Now here are some other miscellaneous costs I also wanted to include here, which you might need to consider. First off is your visas. If you're coming here, typically the visa cost is around $35 to about $40 per month, and also that includes 30 days with the possibility to extend. Other miscellaneous costs might be healthcare and other costs that you have to consider as well, and you can purchase separate programs for that to cover your stay when you travel. Now, beyond just the budget, what is life actually like here? First, the community is amazing. Bali is one of the most international hotspots, especially for nomads who come here for long-term stay or people who come here simply for a vacation. There's lots to do here, and because of that, people come here quite often. There are other places such as Thailand, Vietnam, and other great places in Southeast Asia, even the Philippines, but none of those places offer everything in one place. But Bali does do that. Everything is here that you need it, and that's why it has become one of the top most traveled to destinations in 2024, in 2025, and why people are coming here as nomads. The great thing too is that there are already a lot of people here, YouTubers, travelers, and people who come here, so the community is very vibrant, especially in Seminyak and in Canggu. You can meet a lot of people from all different kinds of places around the world and actually create new friends from people you would never have thought to meet before. You'll meet freelancers, you'll meet entrepreneurs, and you'll even meet fitness trainers if you decide to also do fitness here too. So it doesn't really matter if you're in Canggu, if you're in Ubud, if you're in Uluwatu, Seminyak. What matters is that you surround yourself with those right people, you find a place that you like to live, and you adapt to the culture here. Now, second thing I think is really important is you also learn a little bit about the local culture, you'll learn about the local language, and you respect that as well. It's very important to do that, and that is why definitely you should take some lessons to learn the local language, especially if you're going to be here for a few months or longer than that. It's quite easy to take an initiative to learn the language, and you can do that with several other online platforms or just making friends with people here who will also teach you even just the basics on how to talk in Bahasa. It's very important to do that. Third is that there is a lot of people who are really building businesses here that are very productive, and if you have the right mindset and you really want to also do that too as well, you can get that done here. Unlike many people who think Bali is a vacation, that is one aspect of it, but there are also many people who actually live here and build businesses, online businesses, where you can actually earn a full-time living in many niches. For example, video editing, graphic design, or whatever you choose. The great thing about Bali is that you are surrounded by ambitious and motivational people. Not only the people who actually come here, but even the locals. There's a lot of really friendly locals that are doing amazing things here, and you can meet these people and create communities around that. And finally, the best part, it's about the nature. It's about the experiences. Beautiful beaches, stunning waterfalls, and just an overall vibrant community. And also the culture here is very respectful. It's very integrated into the society, so you will feel that as well if you integrate yourself into that. There are lots of things that if you come here, you'll feel the difference, and it'll also motivate you to work harder and also to build a better life for yourself